At first, you think you have finally won. She texts back in 3 seconds. She laughs at jokes that are not legally jokes. She remembers your coffee order, your birthday, your favorite song, and the exact face you made once when a waitress called you buddy. For a lonely man, this feels like medicine. Not healthy medicine. More like the kind with a warning label you ignore because the bottle says, may cause someone to finally care about you. Her name is Nora. She looks at you like you are the only person in the room, then the only person in the city, then the only person who should be allowed to breathe near her. And by the time you realize love is not supposed to feel like being watched through a keyhole, she already has your spare key, your phone password, your mother's number, and a toothbrush in your bathroom that somehow looks more permanent than your lease. You wanted someone to love you. You got someone who wanted to own the map of your entire life. Before Nora, you were not tragic. That would have sounded too dramatic. You were just easy to forget. You worked at a small electronics store where customers asked you questions, ignored the answers, and then bought the wrong charger anyway. Your apartment had one chair, one mug, and a fridge that made a noise like it was trying to contact the dead. Your best friend Marcus called every Friday and said, "You coming out?" And every Friday you said, "Maybe next week." Next week became a lifestyle. At night, you scrolled through other people's lives until your thumb hurt. Engagement photos, gym videos, couples making pasta badly and calling it healing. You were not jealous, you told yourself that. You were just tired of being the extra person in every room. Then Nora walked into the store during a rainstorm, holding a cracked phone and smiling like she had been looking for you specifically. She said, "Can you fix this?" You said, "Probably." That was the first lie of your relationship, because you did not fix her phone that day. You fixed the screen enough for it to turn on, but the camera still shook, the speaker still buzzed, and the battery percentage dropped like it had somewhere better to be. Nora did not care. She said, "It's better because you touched it." You laughed because you thought she was flirting. She laughed because she had learned that if she made strange things sound soft, people let them pass. That was her talent, not beauty, not charm, translation. She could translate control into concern, jealousy into romance, and surveillance into devotion. And you were exactly lonely enough to believe the subtitles. Nora was not beautiful in a clean magazine way. She was beautiful in a way that made you nervous. Long dark hair, wide eyes, a smile that stayed half a second too long, like it was waiting for permission to leave. When you fixed her phone, she watched your hands, not your face, your hands. Then she said, "You're careful." No one had ever called you careful before. People called you quiet, awkward, nice, reliable, which is what bosses call you when they want you to cover a shift without overtime. But careful sounded intimate. She came back the next day with coffee. The day after that, with a sandwich. The day after that, with a drawing of you behind the counter. It was terrible. Your head was shaped like a potato with student debt, but she had drawn your tired eyes exactly right. You should have found that strange. Instead, you kept it. Lonely people do not always recognize red flags. Sometimes they frame them. By the second week, she knew your schedule better than your manager. She brought you soup when you had not told her you were sick. She left a scarf in your apartment when you had not invited her inside. She knew your neighbor's name because apparently Mrs. Alvarez looked sweet. You asked when she met Mrs. Alvarez. Nora said, "Oh, I didn't. I just saw her mail." Then she kissed your cheek. Somehow the kiss became louder than the sentence. That is another thing lonely people do. They hear affection at full volume and warnings through a wall. Dating Nora was easy at first. Too easy. She liked what you liked. You mentioned an old band, and the next day she knew every album. You said you hated loud bars, and suddenly she hated loud bars too. You said your dream was to move somewhere quiet, and she whispered, "We could disappear." That should have sounded romantic. It sounded romantic because you were stupid in a very human way. The first rule arrived as a joke. "Don't leave me on red," she said, smiling. So you stopped. The second rule arrived as concern. "Text me when you get home." So you did. The third rule arrived as pain. "It hurts when you don't tell me who you're with." So you told her. By the end of the first month, your phone had become a tiny parole officer. If it buzzed, you answered. If it did not buzz, you checked whether it was broken. Marcus noticed first. He said, "Bro, You blink now like you're asking permission. You laughed. Then you checked your phone under the table. Nora did not scream at first. That would have made things simple. She cried softly. She apologized before you knew what you had done. She said things like, "I'm sorry I'm too much," which made you comfort her for the thing she was doing to you. It was emotional judo. You would enter an argument as the victim and leave as tech support. One night, you told her you needed to sleep early. She said, "Of course. I want you healthy." At 2:13 a.m., she sent one message, "Are you awake?" Then another, "I know you're sleeping, I just miss you." Then a photo of your apartment building from across the street. Caption, "Your light is still on." You stared at it for a full minute, then you turned off the light. Which, in hindsight, was maybe not the alpha move. The next stage was harder to explain because it looked like affection. Nora began becoming you. She bought the same grey hoodie you wore. Then she wore your actual grey hoodie. Then she said it smelled like home, which is cute until you realize she has not returned it in 11 days, and you are now cold in your own apartment. She started using your phrases. She ordered your food. She laughed like you. When your sister Maya met her, Nora hugged her too long and said, "I've heard everything about you." Maya looked at you with the expression older sisters use when they are already planning the emergency group chat. Later, Maya said, "She studies people." You said, "She's just intense." Maya said, "So is a house fire." You told yourself they did not understand. That is how isolation works. It does not always begin with someone locking a door. Sometimes it begins with you defending the person slowly removing the handles. Your world got smaller. Not overnight. That would have scared you. It shrank politely. Marcus stopped inviting you out after Nora showed up at his birthday dinner with a homemade cake that said in frosting, "Thank you for sharing him." Nobody ate the cake. Not because it looked bad, it looked great. That was the worst part. Your coworker Lena stopped asking if you wanted lunch after Nora sent her a message from your account that said, "He needs space from female friends right now." You did not send it. But when Lena confronted you, Nora cried so hard, you apologized to both of them. This is how you lose people. Not with one dramatic betrayal, with 100 exhausting explanations until everyone decides loving you has too much paperwork. Soon, Nora was the only person who still showed up, and she made sure you remembered that. "Everyone leaves," she said. "I don't." You were too tired to ask why that sounded like a threat. The worst part was how reasonable she looked from the outside. She packed your lunch. She folded your laundry. She remembered your sister's promotion and sent flowers. People at work said, "Man, you're lucky." You smiled because correcting them would require explaining that the lunch had a note inside saying, "I know you sat beside Lena yesterday." It is hard to tell people you are scared of someone who bakes muffins, especially when the muffins are good. Marcus said, "This is how horror movies get you. Not with a monster, with banana bread." You told him he was exaggerating. Then you went home and found Nora sitting on your floor, organizing your old photos into 3 piles. People she approved of, people she did not, and people she had questions about. The breaking point came at Maya's apartment. Maya had invited you for dinner and told you, very clearly, do not bring Nora. So naturally, Nora arrived holding flowers, dessert, and your elbow like a receipt. Dinner was quiet, the kind of quiet where forks become loud enough to deserve subtitles. Maya asked Nora what she did for work. Nora smiled and said, "Right now, mostly taking care of Evan." You laughed because no one else did. Then Maya asked, "Does Evan need taking care of?" Nora's smile stayed, her eyes did not. She said, "Everyone needs someone who knows what's best for them." Marcus, who Maya had secretly invited as backup, muttered, "That sentence just filed a police report on itself." For 1 second you almost laughed. Then Nora looked at him, not angrily, sweetly, like she had just added his name to a list. That night, Marcus sent you screenshots, messages from anonymous accounts, threats, fake rumors, photos of him entering his building. Then Lena sent screenshots too. Then your landlord called and asked why your girlfriend had requested a copy of your lease in case of emergency. You confronted Nora in your apartment. Your voice shook. which was humiliating because you had practiced in the mirror and looked pretty brave next to the toothpaste. You said, "You can't keep doing this." Nora looked confused. Not fake confused. Worse, genuinely confused. She said, "I'm protecting us." From who? From people who don't understand us. There is no us if I can't breathe. That was the first true thing you had said in months. Nora's face changed. It did not twist into rage. It emptied, like someone had unplugged her from the wall. Then she whispered, "You sound like them." After that, she started recording things, not secretly. That would have been less disturbing. She held the phone openly while you spoke, like a documentary crew had arrived to capture your moral failure. "Say that again," she would whisper. "Say you don't need me. You stop talking as much." Silence felt safer, but silence became evidence too. "See," she said one night, "you withdraw affection to punish me." You almost admired the architecture of it. Every exit led back to her. If you argued, you were cruel. If you stayed quiet, you were cruel. If you apologized, she was right. If you did not apologize, she cried until you did. After that, the relationship stopped pretending. Your phone disappeared, your car keys moved, your work schedule changed because someone called your manager pretending to be you and said you were emotionally unwell, which was rude because it was becoming accurate. Nora made soup. She placed it in front of you with both hands. You stared at it. She said, "You think I'd hurt you?" You said nothing. She smiled. "Good, you're learning." Dark humor has limits. You discovered yours while eating suspicious soup from a woman wearing your hoodie and humming your favorite song off-key. That night, while she slept, you found your phone hidden inside a cereal box. Not even good cereal, plain bran flakes. Even your kidnapping had fiber. You texted Maya one word, "Help." Then Nora's hand closed around your wrist. She had not been asleep. You do not escape like a hero. You escape like a man who has finally become more afraid of staying than leaving. You spill water on the floor, you knock over a chair, you run into the hallway barefoot while Nora screams your name like it belongs to her. A neighbor opens his door, sees your face, and immediately decides this is above his emotional pay grade. Maya arrives with Marcus and a police officer. Nora changes instantly. Tears, trembling hands, small voice. "He's been unstable," she says. And for one horrible second, you understand how good she is. Because you do look unstable. You are barefoot, shaking, sleep-deprived, and wearing a shirt with soup on it. Not exactly courtroom energy. But Maya has screenshots, Marcus has dates, Lena has messages, your landlord has camera footage, and Nora has the one thing obsessive people always underestimate. A pattern. Even then, she almost wins. The officer speaks softly to her first. Of course he does. She is calm now. Clean, barefoot in a delicate way, not a panic way. You look like you have been assembled from bad decisions and soup. She says you have anxiety. She says you have been paranoid. She says she stayed because she loved you, and the scariest part is that every sentence contains a little truth arranged into a lie. You do have anxiety. You have been paranoid. She did stay. That is why manipulation works. It does not invent a new reality. It takes pieces of the real one and glues them into a weapon. Months later, people still ask why you stayed. They ask it like they are smarter than fear. Like they would have walked out at the first red flag with perfect posture and a podcast microphone. But life is not that clean. You stayed because she made you feel chosen. You stayed because leaving meant admitting the best thing in your life had become the worst thing in your life. You stayed because control does not always arrive as a cage. Sometimes it arrives as breakfast, as a good morning text, as someone saying, "I just love you more than anyone else ever could." The last time you see Nora, she is across the street from the courthouse. Different hair, different clothes. Same eyes. She smiles like nothing happened. Your phone buzzes, a message from an unknown number. "I forgive you." You block it. Then another message arrives from a different number. "I know." You look up. She is gone, and that is the part nobody understands. Surviving does not mean the story ends. Sometimes surviving means you get your life back one locked door, one changed password, one unanswered message at a time. You wanted to be loved so badly that you ignored the sound of every exit closing. Now you know better. Love does not demand your passwords. Love does not punish your friends. Love does not become you, follow you, isolate you, and call it devotion. And if someone ever says they cannot live without you, you no longer hear romance. You hear a warning.